Hello Internet, I'm your only mate, and we've got ourselves a new volume of RWBY. It's finally time for RWBY Volume 9, and for this volume I'm changing up how I do this. Okay, so this isn't really a reaction sort of thing, well, not like a live reaction kind of video. Instead, I'm going to be just going through the episode, just like on a scene-by-scene basis. There's not really going to be any, like, footage, say maybe for, like, a little clip or something here and there. And just chat about it. Now, some of you might be thinking, but mate, isn't that exactly the same thing as what Little Karibo does with Yu-Gi-Oh! GX? Well, to that I say... But anyway, I'm just going to be going through the episode, just having a laugh with whatever I can, just recapping it, and hopefully people enjoy it. And if you want to watch this episode along with me, there are ways to do that. You can go watch it on Crunchyroll, and if you want to support RWBY officially, you can watch it on Crunchyroll.com, roosterteeth.com. I believe the trailers are still on YouTube. There's DVDs. You got the anime and Ice Queendom, you got video games, you got the mangas, you got the comic books, there's a board game. There's a lot of, like, legal ways to enjoy RWBY. So yeah, support the show officially. And then come back and support me unofficially. Speaking of which, if you haven't seen this episode yet, go watch it, support the official release. Okay, while they've gone, let's just do the rest of the video without them. So the episode starts with an opening narration from somebody, I don't know who this is.
This is the story of a girl who had a lot of problems.
Gonna have to be more specific. Anyway, we get to see the ending of Volume 8 again, but this time a first-person view from RWBY, which is actually pretty interesting. I like that. And just how fast everything is happening, you hear RWBY's like, breathing, you hear a heartbeat. Hell of a way to open the volume. Anyway, we see up until RWBY falls with Blake. I'm going to be calling back to this in a moment. And we see what happens after RWBY falls into the void, and I have to admit, that is pretty. Just all those different particles floating around. Also, if you pause at the right moment, it looks like RWBY's charging a Dragon Ball style ki blast. And that just makes me giggle. But no time for giggling, because RWBY is being attacked by Neo. Gonna be calling back to this later. And whilst Neo is attacking RWBY, she decides to turn into people that she knows RWBY cares about. Oscar, Yang, and Penny. They have themselves a fight, RWBY breaks free, and she wakes up on a beach. Man, it's a good thing the tide was out. However, we do see that there are two suns in the sky. So now I just need to see RWBY don her hood and cloak, and tell somebody, these aren't the waifus you're looking for. Or something to that effect, I don't know. So RWBY walks into the forest and gets a view of a giant-ass tree, thinking, alright, that's where I gotta go. But as she walks forward, goes backwards. Yeah, this place is all kinds of weird, and I imagine it's only gonna get weirder. And whilst RWBY's doing this, she has this bird behind her going, bah, 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 bah. RWBY keeps trying and trying, and there is a mouse watching her. After several attempts, RWBY decides to take a little rest by a tree and have herself a good cry, which I can't say I blame her after everything. But it starts to rain while she's crying. Little theory, and I know I'm not the first person to talk about this, but I'm guessing this place is also tied to the emotions of whoever's around. Because RWBY's crying, it rains. Now, as for the loop that she found herself in, well, she was feeling lost. So, yeah, she just ends up in a seemingly endless loop. So that's worrying. But amidst all this, the mouse is trying to pull something out of the ground with less than success. So RWBY decides to help them, and pulls cheese out of the ground. Okay. She gives the mouse the cheese and mutters to herself, oh, if only you could help me. So the mouse...
I could try.
Moving on. So the mouse doesn't know why Ruby is screaming, and as Ruby tries to frantically reply as to why, the mouse assumes that it's because she wanted to share the cheese. Can't say I blame the mouse, that would be one of my thoughts. And I want to call out this detail, when Ruby says, no, that's okay, I love the sigh that the mouse has. It's just like, oh great, I don't have to share this massive chunk of cheese you just got for me. Awesome. I would totally, that would totally be me in that situation. Ruby states that she's never spoken to a mouse before, and the mouse replies, well, I've never spoken to a you before. Which is a fair point. Ruby tries to say that she's a human, a girl, a huntress, and the mouse just responds with, that's a lot of things. Ruby tells the mouse her name, and the mouse responds with, and to Ruby Rose is your purpose? That's a new take on it. But it gets Ruby to smile again, so that's nice. Enjoy that while it lasts. The mouse states that they don't have a name, so Ruby decides, I'll call you Little. Is that okay? So hey, Stuart Little got into Ruby. That's neat. And a little bit of backstory, I saw this clip at RTX, and I remember speaking to people saying that, oh, Little, Stuart Little, right? They had no idea that that might have been the case. It's one of those few occasions where I felt smart. Let me have this, okay? Little brings up the purpose thing, which gets Ruby to laugh, and after everything she's been through, that's just nice to see. So Ruby starts asking, hey, have you seen anyone else that looks like me, but also doesn't? So then she tries to describe Yang and Blake, saying that one has long blonde hair, and the other has cat ears. Which does spook Little understandably, to which Ruby apologizes, saying that she should have known because she's watched cartoons. Ruby, that's also just a thing in nature. Anyway, Little hasn't seen them, but they do state that maybe their village has. So, hey, maybe take Ruby there. Someone there might have seen them. Though Little does add that some more cheese wouldn't hurt. There's always a catch, isn't there? Anyway, it's time for Weiss and Blake, who are already together. I'm confused, but also happy. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm surprised we didn't get to see them reunite, but, well, there's a reunion coming up later that more than makes up for it in my eyes. Also, anyone who knows me and other content I do will know I do discussion videos with Max and Few Trades. Weiss and Blake are our favourite characters. We refer to them as the best skulls, because they are. So these two being the first to reunite makes me happy. Anyway, they're searching for Gamble Shroud. Blake does say that she has some theories on where they are, but none of them really make sense, which I get. I just remember after Volume 8 and trying to theorize where this is, I was proud of one of them in that maybe it was the Vault World, but I'm getting less and less sure of that one. As solid as I thought it was, but oh well. Anyway, the two express that they're just happy that the other is okay. Though Blake does ask the sensible question as to what happened. And Weiss, understandably, doesn't really want to answer, saying that she will when they find the others. Honestly, given what she has to tell them, I don't blame her for wanting to wait until they find Ruby and Yang first. Anyway, they find Gamble's Shroud on top of a lot of vines, and we get a few shots of them trying to get it. Blake pulling on them, Weiss trying to chop them, but they grow back. Now, they appear tight, and I've seen people talk about this, and there's actually a theory on that I want to bring up and even add to. And it's the theory that they don't have their aura. Which, thinking about it, yeah, they might not. Now, there were some RWBY comic books in which they crossed over with the Justice League, and Jessica, the Green Lantern, who came from a separate universe, by the way, stated that when she entered Remnant's atmosphere, she gained an aura and a semblance. So basically, anyone who lives on Remnant just has aura and a semblance. Anyone who enters it gets that too. Kind of implying that if they leave, they won't, and that's backed up because we learn in the World of Remnant videos, specifically the Dust one, that the people of Remnant have tried to launch spaceships and satellites, but given that dust is their power supply, whenever dust leaves Remnant, it loses its function. So that no aura theory makes a lot of sense, which does throw a bit of a wrench into something that's on my wish list for this volume, which I'll get to near the end of the video, but it does raise the stakes a fair bit, because they don't have their aura, their semblance, and they can't really use any of the elemental dust, so no fancy ice shenanigans, no big fire blasts, or anything like that. Anyway, moving on from that to something that's absolutely adorable, and honestly one of the highlights of the episode. Blake tries reaching for Gamble's shroud from a tree, and I love Weiss in this scene. The way she's just jumping up and cheering, going, yeah, woo! That's so cute, I love it. And honestly, because of the pose, I couldn't help but add pom-poms to it when editing. I'm just imagining her with pom-poms just going, go Blake! Because we all should be saying that. See, Weiss gets it. But the second Blake touches Gamble's shroud, the vines, grab them. And there's an army of mice. So, hey, Little's village. They hear one of them talk. Weiss understandably asks Blake, are they talking? But Blake is not really concerned with that. So we cut back to Ruby, who's still walking through the forest, and Lissel has fallen asleep. She comes to the clearing to see all of this, and is understandably surprised. Lissel says, oh hey, there's your cat friend! And immediately gets scared again. So Lissel gives all the mice a recap, much like I'm doing with you, about how Ruby pulled the cheese out of the ground, and I love that one of them faints in the background. One runs over to Blake and apologizes, as they should, stating that their kind is wary around cats. And snakes. And cats. Didn't really need to say cats twice. A little bit racist there. So Blake asks if any of them had seen Yang, describing her as having long blonde hair, looks kind of scary but isn't, to which Weiss chimes, unless she wants to be. I do like their smirks and how it makes Ruby chuckle. Unfortunately, the mouse hasn't seen her. Ruby tells Blake and Weiss that she was trying to get up to a cliff. They agree to go with. Lissel climbs on Blake, which actually gets us spooked. Sorry, it's just fun seeing Blake emote like that. Anyway, Lissel offers to be their trusty guide. And falls asleep, again. I'm sensing a little trend here. Please don't unsubscribe. Ruby does try to ask Weiss if anyone else fell, and what happened. Weiss still doesn't really want to say, but she does add that she doesn't know if anyone else fell. But there's no time for that because they hear a roar. And that roar was... this thing. Yeah, the jabberwalker. I have to admit, this thing is mad creepy. I mean, from its design, the way it's just saying searching, hunting, words like that. And whenever it moves its head, it phases or glitches sort of thing. That's really unsettling. Blake and Weiss decide, let's kill it. Ruby would join them, but she still doesn't have Crescent Rose. Also, hey, another thing that adds to the stakes, Ruby doesn't have her weapon. So remember the hand-to-hand training that she had to do in Volume 5? Well, gonna have to make use of it now, because it's our only option. Unless, well, Gamble's Shroud is technically two swords. Its sheath is a sword too, so... I don't know, maybe Blake could just be you know what, here, have something to defend yourself. I mean, that's an option. Anyway, I'm rambling. The Jabberwalker attacks, it and Blake get into a lock, and we hear someone say, I'm not done, and a rock comes out of the air and smashes it in the head. Fantastic throw. Turns out it was Yang who yeeted the rock, and she is missing an arm. I mean, from the trailer we know why her arm is missing, but... let's just not go there for now. She, Blake, and Weiss corner the Jabberwalker, and it decides to retreat. Blake and Weiss chase after it while Yang falls to catch her breath, presumably to make sure that thing has gone. Because, I mean, yeah, it said retreat, so, just run after it a bit, make sure it's gone, because... don't really want to have a moment where they sit down and chat, and then that thing just ambushes them right there. So while they're doing that, Ruby reunites with Yang, and Yang seems not too happy, stating that Ruby shouldn't be there. I mean, we find out later that Yang thought that she was dead this whole time. So yeah, thinking that and seeing Ruby... Yeah, I think I would have the same response. But she does say in a bit that she is still happy to see everybody. Just that them being there must mean that everything went to hell. Anyway, Ruby reassures Yang by saying, "Hey, if you thought we wouldn't come for you, you must have forgotten who raised me." Which is a really sweet moment. But I do have to kind of ask, Ruby, did you have any idea that Yang was still alive? Like, before you fell? I don't know, maybe the plan would have been use the staff to summon Ambrosius, make a portal to Yang. Ruby asks what happened to Yang's arm, and Yang says that she doesn't think Ruby would believe her even if she told her. Little states, "Why not? You seem trustworthy." And I love Yang's face. That's a face that screams, "I have questions." But before all of that, we get my favourite scene from this episode.
Ruby?
What is that? Yang.
Cute. Okay, you guys know that this is my favourite pairing in the show, so when I saw this moment, oh my god, I was so happy. Happy because, oh my god, that's so sweet. And also laughing because of the... just because it's the image of Blake running up to Yang and tackling her for this hug. I just want everyone to think back to, how Blake was in, the early volumes. To this. Just being that affectionate, it's just... I love to see it, okay? But, like I mentioned before, while Yang is happy to see everybody, she does assume that means everything went bad. And Weiss has some news for everybody. She tells everyone that Penny's dead and Ruby faints. Yeah, I can't blame her. Weiss and Blake relay everything to Yang while Ruby is still passed out, and I just want to point out, Little is fanning Ruby with a leaf. I'm really liking Little so far. Ruby wakes up and tells everybody that Neo is there too and attacked her while they were falling. And it's at this point I realise, not only did I forget to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up now. The whole Neo attacking Ruby thing and Blake initially finding Weiss. So, at the end of Volume 8, Ruby and Neo fell at the same time, but Blake caught Ruby. And then they fell at the same time. So I would have assumed that Ruby and Blake would have been the first to find each other, and they would have started next to each other. Also, Neo fell before Ruby, and yet attacked her as though she fell at the same time. I mean, we saw from the fight that she didn't have her umbrella, so she couldn't, delay it or anything. It's weird, but I'm not going to harp on it that much. Plus, the rules of this place are all kinds of weird, so, it's the Ever After. I ain't gotta explain shit. When is that meme gonna be a thing? So Blake stands up, saying that Ruby's weapon is still missing, Yang's arm was stolen, that they should get everything back before they start coming up with a way to get out of there, wherever this is. I'm going to be calling back to that when I talk about the opening, because it goes into a bit of a theory I saw that I'm actually interested in. But for now, there is a light that distracts Blake, and she goes to check it out. Weiss says they don't know where they are, and Yang brings up the idea of them being dead because, she thought that she was this whole time. Blake sees more of this place and says that they're in a fairy tale. Okay, so I just had to record this little bit extra for a bit more info. So I decided not to talk about the intro in depth in this video because I feel like the video's just gone on long enough as is. But if you do want to hear my thoughts on the intro, perhaps check out my discussion with Max a Few Trades, Max and Mate. We talk about it there, among other things. And if you like long RWBY discussions that go on for over an hour, maybe it's just something to have in the background. That's there for you. But one part of the intro I do want to talk about, and it goes into something I brought up about Blake in this episode. And it's these shots of the girls running, and Blake is in the lead. Now, I saw a theory on this that maybe that and the scene with Blake, just laying out the situation, what they have to do, while Ruby's going through her stuff, might we see Blake take over as acting leader for a little while? Because that's something I never thought that we might actually end up seeing one day, and honestly, I'm kind of down for it. I mean, it would be kind of interesting to see, one of the other three girls, at least have the chance to act as team leader for a little while. Plus, I mean, Blake did help lead a country to defend Haven, so, of the three, Blake gets my vote. I'm not biased at all. Totally not. And that was episode 1. So happy to see RWBY back, and I am going to get to a wish list of mine. Just things that I want to see out of this volume, and I'm sure there are shots where you have seen it. There's a gong right behind me. That and the wish list go hand in hand. So my plan is, when doing these kinds of videos, if something that's on my wish list happens, I'm going to hit the gong. Unlike the one at RTX, I'm not going to punch it. I mean, if I punch that thing, it would break. Although, I would have the brag of saying I broke a gong with my fist. Nah, I'm just going to smack it with the thing it came with. Anyway, so on that wish list is something that I hope to see, but now I'm not too sure about with the whole no aura theory, and that is a semblance evolution. I want to see one of Team RWBY, have their semblance evolve. Because we've known since Volume 5 that that is a thing that can happen. It can evolve and become something greater. The only person we've really seen do that is Ren. And I guess maybe Weiss with the whole learning how to summon thing. But I don't know, I'm curious. I want to see RWBY's, Blake's, Yang's, or just anyone else's semblance evolve. And if the Shini semblance can evolve, I want to see that too. Just buff these girls up, RWBY. That's all I'm saying. But like I said, with the whole no aura thing, there's a chance we might not see that, which is a bit disappointing, but if we can get it, I would love to see it. So that's 1. 2, I'm flipping you off in Britain. An appearance by Summer or anyone who has previously died. Because I've seen a lot of theories that this place might be connected to the afterlife in some ways, which, looking a bit less likely, but hey, you never know. Plus, flashbacks could be a thing. And the reason I say Summer is because we still don't know exactly what happened to her. So, I don't know, maybe there's just the chance that she's here somewhere. Plus, we see that blacksmith, and they hide their face. And I know we see a shot later where we see what looks like their face, but that could be a mask, so I don't know, maybe? Maybe this is where Summer is? 3. I want to see Weiss win a fight. So yeah, I've noticed this when talking to my friend Max a few trades, that of Team RWBY, Weiss kind of gets the short end in the whole, win-loss record. Especially nowadays, because, well, she just gets whooped. She got beat by an unnamed chainsaw dude. She sacrificed herself to try and take out Flint Cole. He survived, and then Yang just beat him and Neon. That's what happened with the Null. And yeah, there is the fight between her and Marrow when RWBY were fighting the Aesops. But in that fight, Marrow seemed to be, the least into it. And in the following volume, he even states that they were all holding back. Marrow, I believe, but not the others. At least, not as much. Yeah, I just want to see Weiss get a win, okay? And speaking of win-loss record, I want to see Team RWBY, or one of Team RWBY, get into a fight with Neo and win. Yeah, this is something else I've noticed, and a couple of friends agree with me on this. Neo's win-loss record is kind of stupid. And when I say that, I mean, it's borderline, if not perfect, depending on technicalities. The one loss you could give her is getting blindsided by Penny when she was fighting Maria. And I would like to add on that Maria had so much more experience than Neo, has the semblance which is the perfect counter to Neo's, and still lost. And now what bothers me about that is that Neo's win-loss record, like, on screen, is better than Salem's. Am I the only one who's a bit bothered by that? That Salem has lost more fights than Neo has. So yeah, I think someone beating Neo in a fight is just long overdue. Jean gets a new weapon, upgrade, or fix. Like, his sword broke last time, he kinda needs it. We see Vacuo. I don't know how likely it is, really, because this volume is going to be more focused on, Team RWBY, and it's going to be a more character-driven volume, which honestly I'm on board with. So I don't know how likely it is we'll see Vacuo, except for maybe, like, the last episode, which goes into my next one. Team RWBY get back to Remnant by the end of the volume. Because, yeah, I think we only need to stay in the Ever After, like, for one volume, and, yeah, like, the girls have got to get back to Remnant. I'm sure I'll add more, but for now, the last one, and you will probably know this is going to be on here, is Blake and Yang kiss. I feel like that's been building up for a while, and honestly, I think now's the volume to do it. I spoke to a friend of mine about this recently. Since they're away from Salem and like the whole war with her and everything, this might actually be a good opportunity to just get that done, rather than have to find a way to have that happen in the middle of like the big battle that's going to be happening in Vacuo. Yeah, I've been shipping Bumblebee since Volume 2. I want it. And additionally, this is a theory I came up with, I think it was around Volume 7 I came up with this, and it ties to Ranora. So, Volume 2, which is when I started shipping the bees, we got a song in the soundtrack called Boop. It didn't play in the actual volume, and it's clearly about romantic feelings between Ren and Nora. 2 volumes later, Volume 4. Those two share an intimate handhold on a ship, heading towards a new kingdom. After they have a fight with something that caused them both trauma. 3 volumes later, Volume 7, they kiss. Now, what does this mean for Blake and Yang, I hear you asking? Well, Volume 4. We got a song called Bumblebee in the soundtrack, which didn't appear in the actual volume. It's pretty clearly about romantic feelings between Blake and Yang. 2 volumes later, Volume 6, they fought Adam, someone who caused them both trauma, and after defeating him, share an intimate handhold on a ship heading towards a new kingdom. 3 volumes later, Volume 9, kiss, question mark? That's a theory that's been in my head for, like, years at this point. If that actually does turn out to be true, I am gonna be extra happy. So yeah, that's my wish list. I could easily add some things. In fact, let me know what your wish list is, and I might add it to mine, and it will get a smack from the gong. I have to hold it, otherwise it falls over. Before I go, I just want to plug one extra thing. If, much like me, you guys like Blake and Yang, I wrote a little fanfic on Wattpad. It's about them, like, post-series, so no more Salem, everything's good, the girls can finally be happy. It's the two married, and we have a kid on the way. I'm super happy about it, and it kind of evolved as it went on to become, like, not just about Blake and Yang, but still primarily Blake and Yang in that regard. I'm super proud of it, so if you have an interest in it, like, give it a read. But yeah, that's all from me. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know what you have on your wish list, as well as any predictions that you have for Volume 9 going forward. Until next time, here's my RWBY outro. Bye.
This is Ruby Rose, and you've been watching Your Only Mate. Bye!